Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and we have the whole crew back here today, and we got three rocking topics to get into. We're going to open up with the China Joy 2024 controversy regarding a particular statement that was brought to our attention by a Brazilian publication regarding a certain developer saying that we don't need the Xbox platform. Why does it even exist? I have the actual quote. We will be reading verbatim. There was a rebuttal from the company, and there was not an apology. There was not a no, we did not say this. What it was is that's not our beliefs, and we'll read that verbatim as well. Again, I'm not surprised that you're going to have a rogue developer say something egregious, and obviously a lot of people in there feels about it. And listen, the game is not slated to come out until 2026. It is only targeting the PS5, like we've seen many times before. And the truth of the matter is we'll see if the PlayStation gamers actually show up for it, because quite a few of the exclusives that were money hatted by PlayStation, or for instance, like the developer is limited. They're a smaller team. They only can focus on one brand. Well, the PlayStation gamers didn't show up for a lot of them. Rise of the Ronin is a perfect example. Foam Stars is another. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is another. There's been quite a few games released this year. Stellar Blade, reviewed pretty well. A lot of people really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, the last time I was able to hear anything from the developers that they moved 1 million copies. And when you consider that there are supposedly 60 million plus PS5s in the wild, 1 million copies of a game is not really, selling your brand. And it makes you wonder if these games would have had PC and Xbox a part of the releases, they might have sold more. But that's not the only story we're going to get into. Obviously, we are going to talk about Xbox and Blizzard working together, forming a new double A studio to work on Blizzard IPs. And one particular one pops into my brain, and that is StarCraft Ghost, all the way back from the N64 days. Could that see a revival, or at least release a new StarCraft? Man, that would make bank, especially if it doesn't come out until 2026. And, a new handheld comes out. That would make bank in this country, but I think it would be even bigger in Japan, in Korea, and other Asian region countries where Microsoft doesn't really have a presence. And of course, we're going to get into something that Phil Spencer said regarding Avowed being delayed. We have a roadmap. Now, we've already had it, but I think what was put out there on the socials by Xbox, the official Twitter account, is that we kind of now have an actual roadmap of when these games are releasing. I got to tell you, man, 2024 looks banging for the rest of the year, even with the Avowed delayed, and 2025 with just 4 first-party games, which is hitting that cadence of 1 per quarter. Oh, man, it looks like it's going to be another big year. But listen, let's get into the introductions, and let's welcome back Gamsley. Hey, brother, missed you last week. You're hanging out with family. Congratulations once again. You've been on vacation. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great. I keep seeing Fuzzy's bald head, and I love it. Anyways, I'm doing great. Yours too, Boom. All right, your head's fine.
I mean, it's
too.
not really bald. I got a mohawk, but it's not fixed. I'm sorry. I'm disheveled.
Oh my god. No, I've been having a blast. In Canada, we have like this little. There's a bunch of music festivals going on right now, and I got to go enjoy music in the sun with my lovely girlfriend, and I also am an uncle now, so that was nice. That was a huge thing for me. Yes, I'm
really, awesome.
really happy about seeing the little guy and all that good stuff. Hanging out with my brother. So it's been good. I haven't been gaming as much in the week, but I'm ready to get back to that as soon as possible and catch up on all that good news. But yeah, I'm doing great. I'm ready to talk games. I missed it, so let's do this.
Well, listen, we missed you as well. And if I may make a suggestion, if you are into dungeon crawlers with a big heart and story, Dungeons of Hindenburg, One of my
Oh yeah,
favorite
no,
games of the year. I mean, what
I played that. Yeah, I
what a
played that. That's
triumph of an
awesome.
indie team. It's just
Mhm.
everything that you could possibly want. It's got such heart and it's got such depth. The magic is great. The weapon crafting you can do in there is there's so
The
much,
dungeons, right?
and the dungeons are
Mhm.
freaking cool because if you like puzzles and you like action, I say give it a shot. In Game Pass, ladies and gentlemen, please try this game. But Fuzzy Belvedere, hey brother, welcome back. How you feeling? How's things?
Oh, glad to be here with you guys. Feeling great. Been away over the weekend and stuff, but glad to be here. Been watching Twitter for some of the gaming news stuff, and oh man, Phantom Blade Zero. Can't wait to get into that. But
We're
yeah,
opening up with that. Yeah, I got a lot to say on it because look, you know what, Fuzzy, I'm going to go to you first. Let's rip off the band-aid here. According to
Mhm.
InsiderGaming.com, this story was written over the weekend by Grant Taylor Hill, and it says Phantom Blade Zero dev. Nobody needs Xbox, according to the headlines. So it goes on to say, um, you know. There was this event in China called China Joy 2024. It's basically their version of an E3 for developers and publishers in China. A lot of people show up with their wares, and it's a big deal. It may not be a big deal to you in the chat because maybe you're unaware that this event even actually happens, but it is a big deal for China and it is a big deal for its publishers and its developers. Now, according to the story, now, again, folks, bear with me. I'm going to read verbatim because I don't want anybody accusing that we're trying to sway this one way or another. I'm going to read the story for you. You embark on your own journey on what you believe, what you don't believe, but here it goes. In a recent report published by a Brazilian outlet attending China Joy 2024, it was claimed that a Phantom Blade Zero developer had some harsh words for the Xbox ecosystem. It was explained by the developers of both Black Myth Wukong and Phantom Blade Zero that they don't have exclusivity agreements in place with Sony. They just don't see a need to bring their games to Xbox. And it goes on to say, per the post on the Brazilian outlet's website, when an S game developer was questioned on the platform distribution of Phantom Blade Zero at China Joy 2024, part of their response was a bit scalding. Nobody needs that platform. Now, of course, this comes the way of Icon Era's John Elden Ring for the source, but of course, they do have a link to the Brazilian website that did publish this. The anonymous developer was talking about Xbox. Reportedly, they went on to say that the console platform isn't popular in Asia, which of course is true, and that Microsoft has made it tough to develop games for the Xbox Series X and S by creating a very overloaded ecosystem. Black Myth Wukong is being released on August 30th on PlayStation 5 and PC, while Phantom Blade Zero is assumed to be dropping and has been confirmed, folks, for 2026. Now, here's the thing, Fuzzy. There was a rebuttal. And of course, like a good host, I do have that rebuttal here. I do want to bring that up for us so we can read it. Now, again, this is according to, and this is responding to the report, the actual official Phantom Blade Zero Twitter account. It says this: recently, we noticed that some media outlets have claimed to have interviewed an unnamed developer from S Game at China Joy 2024, who seems to have made statements regarding the release platforms and strategy for Phantom Blade Zero. We want to clarify that these claimed statements do not represent S Game's values or culture, as we believe in making our game accessible to everyone and have not ruled out any platforms for Phantom Blade Zero. We are hard at work on both the development and publishing fronts to ensure that as many players as possible can enjoy our game at release and in the future. Finally, in closing, it says our team is looking forward to sharing more development updates soon, and we are excited to bring our world premiere demo to Gamescom this month. Now, I saw a lot of people take multiple sides on this. My side is this. If a developer from S Game did say this, then that is his or her opinion. Unfortunately, when you are representing a brand and you say something egregious like nobody needs that platform, you are basically representing your company. Now, does that mean that the entire company, from CEO down to tester, feel that way? The answer is no. The problem with this statement, Fuzzy Belvedere, is the response. The response never says that this is a fib or a lie. It basically simply says that we do not think like this. This is not our culture. They didn't apologize for the statement, nor did they actually deny that someone from S Game actually said this. They simply said that they have different games. Again, I'll read it verbatim. We want to clarify that these claim statements do not represent S Game's values or culture. Not saying that, hey, this is a fabrication in any way. I think that is something that a lot of people miss because, of course, I saw a lot of takes. Some people are like, you see, they didn't say it. That's fine. Other people saying, hey, good luck with that, pal. And we'll see if your game sells on PS5 and then whether or not you're going to release it on Xbox. So there were definitely two sides that clearly took their sides and were happy to take them. I mean, I put a tweet out and I said, listen, this is unfortunate. The game does look pretty good from what we've seen. We're going to actually see some gameplay at Gamescom, so I'm excited for that. It's just a bit disingenuous for someone in the company, even though if it's one person, they're still representing your brand. And maybe they don't speak for the whole company, but it does leave a sour taste in Xbox gamers' mouths. I mean, it just is. Let's get your hot take on the pros and cons of both what was said and the rebuttal from Phantom Blade Zero's developer.
Okay, before I get into what was said from the supposed developer, let's look at the source. Icon Era. This is the same quote unquote forum news arrogant that said things like, Starfield will be on, PlayStation at launch. They've also made claims that, a former developer said it was in a terrible state and it was broken. They never talked about any of the fires that were rather obvious for Bungie. They just said, Bungie will run, some or help run some of the, PlayStation studios when it comes to the service end of things. That was, I guess, the intention, but we all see how that turned out. So I don't want to say S Games is really at fault to need to apologize at this point, given that the source is probably the most unreliable source in gaming.
Yes.
Period. Yep. Show me a story that they've got completely right from start, or one that they report on after the facts come out. That's my first look at it as far as that's all concerned. Icon Era is not something I take serious. But let's dive into, let's say if it were to be the case with a unnamed dev, expressing their frustration or concern or their thoughts on, the Xbox platform. It's kind of weird to me that they would say, who needs that platform? And then mention things that are PlayStation, leaning podcast terms as far as, well, it doesn't do well in Asia, so who needs it? You're in China. You're making a game that you're going to release worldwide. What does it not doing well in Asia have to do with the price of milk in Portland?
Yep, great point.
Let's be realistic on this. Your target audience, if you're a developer in China, is probably the US, which is the largest market for gaming. Just saying. So what would it matter for you to bring up, well, it's not popular in Asia, so why bother? I just find it's flawed from get-go. But if a employee said that, that's great. That's their feeling. Maybe it's a running joke in the office, water cooler moment kind of thing. But when you have an actual representative that's named from the company, speak about it. Okay, they're not going to apologize, considering that it's not a founded actual thing. Like, this is
Correct.
the second time this developer has had to come out and say, what you're saying is wrong. Let's clear the air. Because remember, this happened shortly after the state of play that, oh, well, they're not coming to Xbox. No, we haven't, confirmed or denied that it's coming to Xbox. At this time, we're working on primarily the PC platform as far as that one's concerned, and PlayStation at this time. And I think they have some sort of additional help from them, and they're going to try to get the Xbox One as far as taken care of. Another weird statement is that the platform has this overload. Well, if you're making for PC, there's not much overload or porting difference from PC to Xbox, especially if it's just going to be the series consoles. Now, if you're going to go back into the Xbox One console, then yeah, maybe it's a little bit different in that design, but it's a scaling thing when it comes to pretty much being not too far removed from the PC coding stuff, since most of their programming for PC is going to be geared towards Windows, and they didn't make mention of Linux or Mac. So that also doesn't make sense. It's not that, like, at worst, it would be, well, we can't figure out how to scale down on the Series S, but it's a lot of devs are, I guess, making the mistake of not programming for the Series S and scaling up, as opposed to, or maybe I got it wrong, where you're supposed to scale it towards the Series X, and the dev kit will downscale it to the Series S. But it just seems like some devs have that problem until, unfortunately, the wizards over at Xbox have to go over. I mean,
And send a
Larian
team
is a
over to
perfect
help them
example.
fix whatever the issue is. Yeah.
Right. So the statement from Icon Era that places are reporting just has some inconsistent nuggets in it that I find that it's more like hearsay or PlayStation fanboy, rhetoric kind of stuff, as opposed to what a dev would say. Like, the overload aspect just sounds like weird terminology, like, oh, it's the Series S's fault kind of stuff. But I would say this is a game that probably won't come to Xbox Day One, but I don't think they're purposely spiting their nose to save their face. I think a lot of these new devs, especially newer devs to the console space or even the PC space, since most of their game experience, I think, prior was on mobile, is going to want to make the most money possible on the most amount of platforms. We have clear examples in Asia of when making your focus on one platform, shoots you in the butt, and that's Square Enix.
Yeah.
Look at the fact that they didn't put, Final Fantasy 16 on PC. Like, even if we don't want to talk about having it on Xbox, the fact that they didn't have it on PC when a chunk of people bought the previous ones on PC as well was wild to me. But I don't think a dev in China wants to make the same mistakes that some devs in Japan make. They are going to be, at least when it comes to like Korea and China, a lot of the devs look beyond what those in Japan have done and try to do things better as far as making it more profitable for themselves, make it where the games are more addicting for the customers to spend more money into those games and want to play those games for a longer period of time. That's just what they've followed that blueprint. You can look at all of the games from Hoyoverse or I forget the one with the end, Nexon or
Yes.
yeah. So a lot of these devs out there aren't really looking to say, oh, we're not going to bother with that console because it's not popular here, knowing that their big market is going to be the US. And whether it's the second or third place console, however you want to look at it, for that type of software, being that it's for an actual stationary console as opposed to a portable, they're second place. That's fine. I don't get this whole reasoning system of, well, because it's not as popular, it should just go out of business or not bother with it. You still find Pepsi in movie theaters or at certain restaurants and things like that. They're not going out of business. They're making a decent amount of money to stay in business.
Yep.
Ford is the number one in selling trucks. You don't see Chevrolet or GM in general giving up on making trucks, or Dodge giving up on making trucks. It's silly nonsense that only exists in fanboys' mindset in this space of gaming, where, oh, just because you're not first, you're last. So let's do like Ricky Bobby and just get the heck out of here kind of thing, just because we're not, number one. So the rebuttal, it's fine enough for me. Whether you want to call it damage control, I get that, but it's icon error. I would listen to baby talk before I would take anything from icon error serious. That's just my 2 cents.
I mean, it's a fair point. Icon error is just trash. But again, this did come the way of not originally being reported. This was from a Brazilian website, which of course, they do have links. So if you want to read it yourself, you can. Again, it would be disappointing to kind of see a studio cut its nose off to spite its face. And like I said, they did clarify that they have not decided finally on what all the platforms are, but right now it's just PS5. And look, the first thing that they said I found to be a little strange for me is that they were tired of hearing exclusivity with PS5. We know PlayStation, Gamsley, pays to keep games off Xbox. I mean, that's just a fact. They're not going to come out there and publicly and say, hey, by the way, Sony paid us X amount of $1 million to release it on their platform, not to release it on Xbox. That's proven fact that actually happens, and it's in documents. So if it did happen, it wouldn't surprise me. Let's get your hot take on the again, the controversy came and went about a particular dev. He wanted to remain unnamed apparently, which they didn't name him, that worked for S Game. And again, if you just look at the statement, I'm not saying they should apologize for anything, because what do they have to apologize for? It's their game. They can release it whatever they want. I think where I find a little bit of pointed context is the fact that they go on to say that we want to clarify that these claim statements do not represent S Game's values or culture. What they didn't say is that these are untrue and unfounded statements made by a member of our staff. So without saying that, tells me that someone potentially could have said it. They're just saying that our belief as a company does not think that no one needs Xbox. Well, what are your hot takes there, Gamsley?
How can I go after that? I mean, he nailed every single freaking point in the universe. All right, he nailed every single point. First off, yeah, what was it? Where did this source come from again? I already forgot their name.
Icon Era, which is
exactly, there you go.
yeah,
So that's enough
garbage.
there. So who gives a shit?
Yes.
But also, where there's, I'm gonna go with the fanboy stuff, right? And the Twitter sphere and the circles. Guys, this is obviously a conversation that people are having. Right now, the hard reality is that there are double to almost triple PS5s out there. Not to mention when you add in the PS4 and all of that stuff, Sony is the most popular console, period, beside Nintendo, and devs are going to favor them, and that's just how it goes right now. That's how it's always went. And Xbox right now is not doing very good in the hardware scheme. So these things are a problem, and I think their statement points that out. Like, these things are being said somewhere. It doesn't mean that they're going to hate Xbox and they're never going to put their game on it. It's just they're prioritizing. There's no magic sauce coming from anywhere but that. They're taking the money from wherever they get it to help development, and they're putting their game on a platform that they find needs more attention, and that's the PS5. And I can't really explain it more than that. And I don't really care either. They're going to do what they're going to do. I think it's bullish and it's stupid to talk about your partners in that way, especially when they're in a rebuild phase, right? They just got the whole AAA lineup team, right? They got all those quarterbacks, the best quarterbacks in the game, right, in their team right now. And I find it a little strange that they're outwardly saying this to people when that team's about to just fire on all cylinders and get all the attention somewhere down the line. I still think that somewhere down the line with this Xbox thing, and like you said, Boom, well, we're going to talk about that subject, but the ABK lineup is very popular in Asia. Okay, like all of it. Overwatch, everything. StarCraft. I mean, it's all gigantic IP, especially World of Warcraft. And to correct the chat before I continue, yes, Fuzzy is right. The United States, so North America, is the second largest group, right behind China. That's where all the revenue is coming from. And these
Yes,
guys are
that is
based in
correct.
China. So
Yep.
to clarify, like that's what Fuzzy was saying, that you can't ignore the North American kind of region with video games. It's a money pit there. Like there's so many whales there. Now to say, I find that's the most egregious thing, is that you don't talk so much crap about the guys that are just about to win the NFL, you know, or the NHL or the Cup, like 5 years down the line. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. So you're going to even see more, like we saw the quarterly reports. You know, that hardware numbers probably going to slip. But like Fuzzy said, Pepsi still sells. Pepsi is floating. Google Pixels still sell, and they're doing fantastic. Surface laptops don't sell nearly as good as anyone thinks, and they're still going on that because that is what they are, right? That's what they need. They need to be present and give you a clean experience with their product. Xboxes will be here no matter how far that slips. And with this new lineup that they have, the eyes will be turned to Xbox once more. But right now, I think you're going to see a lot of these decisions. I think you're going to see a lot of these devs be very skeptical to prioritize Xbox, or at least parody it, right? Parody it with other releases like the PS5 release and whatever. And the Series S doesn't help, like we said on top. But yeah, there's nothing else to say on this, man. It's just priorities and who's giving the money. So I'm sorry, man. There's nothing else. There's nothing else.
There really isn't anything to say. Again, it was a story
clear
worth
cut.
talking about. Yes.
Yeah, it's clear cut. You know, some devs think like this. Okay, so so what? They're gonna suffer later, or business is business, and they're gonna get their product out regardless. Just like Square, you know. Anyway.
No, I mean, listen, it's great point all around from everybody. I want to welcome in, of course, the chat. Thank you so much for checking it out. We have almost 400. We have over 450 people watching live. So, of course, if you are finding the channel for the first time, I'd ask that you consider subscribing. Mrs. Boom and I are 66 subs away from 15K. That is amazing, and we still have 4 months left of the year. I think we can do it, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks. Again, please consider subscribing. We would greatly appreciate it. We do this Monday through Friday, 5 different shows, 5 different panels, all great content. And all the information that we're talking about is well-researched. Obviously, you see, I do name drop wherever I get the source from. And we have a conversation, and it's not usually pointed. It is, a very opinionated comment. But we want to thank everybody for checking us out here today. We do have 2 more topics to get into, and of course they are pretty beefy.
Boom, before we do that, one guy in the chat, this is not an attack at all, I'm just answering a question. He says, that's the problem, Gamsley. How can Xbox, if devs don't put games on Xbox, like how can they grow? They grow by their own lineup at this point. It's like Nintendo grew on their own lineup forever, right? They're still growing on their own lineup, or not even growing. They're kind of stable and doing their thing and making revenue, and that's all it's about. As long as they're making a profitable amount of revenue, getting all that money in, they're going to slowly grow. And the point is that the games that they have, multi-platform or not, are so gigantic, they're getting so much money, they could survive on just that, and they don't need anyone else. Those companies have grew by themselves for ages. Activision Blizzard by themselves were able to grow and become one of the biggest companies by themselves. So don't worry about that. They're going to make money and still be Xbox in 5 to 10 years. It's just how, will they receive other support from other people along the way? Maybe not, but they will.
Look, at the end of the day, it's documented that PlayStation gamers, this is not an attack, it's not a console world rhetoric statement. The numbers are the numbers, folks. PlayStation gamers that get on the socials that tell you, yes, we won because X amount of games are not on Xbox, do not buy those games. Phantom Blade Zero, when it comes out in 2026, should release. And again, if we follow trends, if we follow the way that the PlayStation gamers buy their games, even the hardcore, they'll sell 3 million copies if they're lucky. Just look at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Just look at Foam Stars and Rise of the Ronin and Stellar Blade. These are all games only available on a PlayStation 5. Now, a few of them might be PC related. I don't have the list in front of me, but they only moved a couple of a million. And you're going to say, well, wait a second, Boom. 2 million copies is nothing to sneeze at. I'm not suggesting that it is. What I'm saying is, if we're going to compare apples to apples here, and you put out a game, let's say you're developer A, and you say, I am going to go where the biggest audience is. Well, the biggest audience technically is PC. But if you were talking about, oh, I'm going to go where the biggest audience is on console that could run my game, you're going to go to the PlayStation 5. Why is that, gentlemen? Because they have documented that they have shipped 60 million PlayStation 5s. So this is where we get into the logistics of it. If you have only sold 2 million copies of your game that is exclusive to a PlayStation 5 with 60 million plus shipped units, that isn't good. That's just not good. And that is ultimately the problem. And I think if PlayStation 5 games that are only targeting that particular platform, they're going to start to see, hey, wait a second. We only sold 1.8 million copies of this game without marketing. Sony's getting their 30%. We're getting our 70%. We're not making the money back that we spent on the game. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. That ultimately is going to change the decision of some of these developers. Like, you know what? Let's try PC. And they'll probably do better on PC. Maybe, does that mean that they need Xbox? I don't think anyone actually needs a platform if you are releasing it on 2 out of the 3 big ones. Maybe you don't need Xbox. I know Xbox gamers are clamoring for those types of games. Do Xbox gamers buy those games? Yes, they do. But we will see ultimately where this goes. Again, take it with a grain of salt. It was reported on by many websites, including, of course, the one that I mentioned to open up the show. But take your opinions, think for yourself, and whether or not they said it. Again, just the statement to me does not condemn the statement, saying, hey, listen, that's an untrue statement. What it said is that we don't think like that as a company. That's not saying that someone from your company didn't say it. That's how I took it. How you take it is entirely up to you. One way or another, listen, it's going to come out in 2026. We're still in 2024. We have a long time to wait for that game. But let's get back. Let's get to the super chats and the channel member chats before we get into the next topic. Jacob Novik, who's been a channel member for 8 months, says, last week we found that you can still you still have access to the 360 store by pushing X on a game icon. New find, redeem a code, still works, but not with everything. That's interesting. I did not know that at all. I'd be real careful about buying anything because if you lose, you actually may lose. JJ Sane 117 drops a very generous $5 super chat. He goes on to say, hey, Boom, my birthday was yesterday. Well, happy birthday. Happy belated birthday to you, JJ. Welcome back. And of course, hopefully you had a great time with friends and family. He says, seeing this journalist get owned made me laugh as a good present. He is also the same one who also hated on Pal World. Yeah, there was actually a response from Bucky from the social media team at Pal World, and he was like, no source, no nothing. How are you reporting this? Listen, it's clickbait, folks. That's what it is. But thank you so much, and of course, happy birthday once again. Iman Burns has been a channel member for a whopping 26 months. So, Iman, thank you so much for being here. He goes on to say, it sounds like someone is being a knobhead by bad mouthing Xbox. Xbox tax in full effect. How's it going, Boom and company? I mean, listen, the Xbox, I don't think this is one of those issues that it's Xbox tax per se, because again, there's no name journalist. Someone said it. Otherwise, the company would have been like, "Hey, no one said that at our company." They didn't say that. But with that said, listen, Xbox in the United States and in a couple other regions do really well. People really appreciate the box. In other places like China, the answer is, well, they're very small on the totem pole, and I don't know if the quote whether or not Xbox makes it difficult for developers. I don't know if I believe that or don't, but it is what it is. Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he goes on to say, PlayStation has positioned their console to be the center of the ecosystem, and Xbox is now saying the console is an option. People in their feelings about that message. Look, I want to get on to the next topic, but here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people get really upset with the fact that they had the no console, no problem situation. Here's the thing. This isn't 1996. Console sales, as much as people on Team Blue want to throw that in your face every time we start talking about consoles, I understand that's important to you. That's not important to some, meaning Xbox. Why isn't that? Well, because they have 500 million confirmed active users. Think about that for a second, folks. 500 million humans are playing Xbox related games. Now, of course, that is not on Xbox only. That is on PC. That is on mobile. That is on TVs. That is anywhere where you have access to your content. That is the metrics. Do not fall for the banana in a tailpipe and let some PlayStation gamer tell you that, oh no, those metrics are the only thing that matters, console sales. That's not the way the market is anymore. The market has changed. People do not want to understand or believe that these conversations are different, but they just are. And if you look at the money that Microsoft has made, and I understand there's been a lot of controversy about, well, Boom, that's mostly Activision. Who gives a shit? They bought the company, and when they bought the company, all of the IP and all of the money that those IP make now becomes Microsoft. Why do you care? It doesn't matter. They posted gains everywhere except for console, which was 42%. Oh, and PS, by the way, Switch, even though I understand it's at its life cycle, and some people were really pointed to tell me to go F myself, how could you compare to the Switch? The Switch is down 46.3%. Is it because am I shitting on the Switch? No, I'll tell you what, folks. I can tell you right now, I got over 100 physical games and over 50 digital. I have 150 games in my Switch library. It's one of my favorite consoles. So no one's dumping on it. The whole point of the conversation was it's not just Xbox that has lost in console hardware numbers. And when Sony drops their numbers, and it's going to happen this week, you're going to see equal, potentially more. It's going to be in the high 30s, 38%, 39%, maybe even 40%. They're going to be down in console sales as well. Is it doom and gloom for PlayStation? No. It's just look at the world, ladies and gentlemen. The world just sucks right now. And financially, a lot of people are hurting. They don't have room for console sales. These consoles are expensive. So people are just taking the knee on them. Anyway, let's get back to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to say something there, Gamsley?
Yeah, I was laughing because in the court case when they were buying Activision Blizzard, right? What is the first thing they said? They're like, fanboys, we've lost the console war.
Yes.
So all you dudes with egos that have been fighting a console war for 10 plus years, that's the people that are talking right now. So please, they're telling you lost. Absorb the ego loss, right? Let it go. play games. I don't know, watch a freaking Disney movie. Who cares? Just go play your games. It's
Go
all
play
gonna be
Dungeons of
fine.
Hindenburg,
All
damn
right?
it.
Yes. Go enjoy your subservice that is now replacing that console. All right? Just go do that and have fun. Anyway.
Yeah, yes. Have hashtag fun, ladies and gentlemen. But listen, let's get into the story that I think has some serious legs here. We got a report from Windows Central regarding their Xbox working with Activision to form a new team. Now, that new team, of course, does not have a name. We do not have a name. We do not have a name with that team as of yet. But Gamsley, this is interesting because when you read the article, and of course I'm going to read it by of course verbatim. What's interesting about this article is the fact that this team is being made to make development of smaller games quicker. They are going to focus on Blizzard IP, which tells me almost immediately that a StarCraft is in the works. And I say that with confidence. Here's why. If you look in the regions specifically where Xbox has literally no thumbprint whatsoever, well, China is definitely one of them, and so is Japan. Now, both of these particular very large markets have gone away from console use. Yes, consoles still sell, but not like back in the days. Everything is either PC or mobile. More specifically, mobile. Now, the rumor is that Xbox is looking to get into the handheld market, whether that is a hybrid next console that gives you the power when it's docked and gives you a 1440p machine, kind of like the ROG Ally when it's in your hands playing. Either way, if they want people to buy this new hardware where we don't see hardware losses of 42% year over year, they need a game that's going to get the masses in the room, whether that be on mobile, whether that be on PC, or whether that be on actually handheld devices, which are big in both regions. A StarCraft revival is people have been calling for this for years. Now, again, I'm going to do a little bit nerdy. I'm going to get a little nerdy, folks. And please let me know if you think that I'm going overboard here. StarCraft Ghost is one of those games that was like the mythical White Walkers, if you will. They're dragons that we've never seen come to fruition. It's the Bigfoot, if you will, the Loch Ness, the Nelly of video games. But it is an IP that existed. It was supposed to release for the N64 100,000 years ago, and could be one of those games that, by a smaller team with a new direction, a third-person, story-driven, spy fiction kind of a thing. That's my hope, because I don't play RTS games, but I know a lot of people in the chat here do. StarCraft would be huge. What are your thoughts on this new team? Because I think this is going to become a trend with the way Microsoft is looking to lower costs on AAA development and get more games into a service for new customers.
Yeah. So I love this topic. Okay. I think first off, StarCraft and Warcraft and all of that will be bigger teams doing those. So for the record, like this new team, I don't think is going to do that style. Maybe like a spin-off, like you said, maybe something like a Star Wars, StarCraft Ghost in some sort of way will be available from this team, or spin-off, like smaller spin-offs. I'm thinking so Warcraft, like a small Warcraft spin-off where it's an action adventure instead of all that. An MMO or an RTS. I see that coming from this team, which makes me super excited, and I'll talk more on it. But the StarCraft stuff wouldn't even work on a handheld to me, in my opinion. But they would have to kind of dumb it down like they did Diablo, and I think that's always a bad decision. But who knows? They could make it work. They've made RTSs work, like Age of Empires. But competitively, I don't think people are going to be walking around with a handheld playing StarCraft competitively. I don't see that. But in any case, I as I said before, they closed Tango. Everybody's like, oh my God, they're not focusing on these big areas anymore. Asia, oh my God, Xbox is dead. Like I said, Overwatch, Warcraft, even Heroes of the Storm, all these games are gigantic and were gigantic in these
Yep.
regions. They all spell like success for these regions once the new big things come out.
100%.
I can't wait for a new StarCraft, and I hope that this team being available, like made and created, takes focus a little bit on this off the big stuff like StarCraft, so the main teams could work on it, because I think that's going to be gigantic. I think it's going to be massive, and it was massive. And there's no sign of it, you know. There's nothing telling us that StarCraft won't move something in the
Dude,
world,
it's
right? Like
it'd
there's
be
nothing pointing to
ridiculous.
that. It is a very big IP there, so I can't wait.
Yes.
I think that, like I said, the small team will focus on like spin-offs, cute little spin-offs. Maybe we get, like I said, a Warcraft Arthas story again, but you're actually running around as Arthas in a 3D model and going action adventure on it. I don't know, but yeah, I want to see Warcraft also. I want to see Warcraft in RTS form. Maybe that's something they can do. Focus on a Warcraft story in RTS form. Yeah, dude, I don't know. There's so much potential with this team. I'm so freaking excited. And guys, people that are like, they won't do anything. Eight
Phil Spencer has
Japan,
name dropped StarCraft multiple times, brother.
yeah, Japan, and Korea and all of that. Handhelds are freaking king. So if these
Yes.
things drop, like Boom said, and they have some sort of handheld version, again, don't know how they would do that with these crazy competitive games, but if they do that, things are going to get nuts there, and they'll start looking at an Xbox handheld and being like, well, it's not on Switch.
Yeah.
I love StarCraft, I love Overwatch, I love Warcraft, I love World of Warcraft. It's all available on this handheld thing. They're going to start picking up the handheld thing, and that moves units and that gets people in, and especially Game Pass. That gets Game Pass in to that market very heavily. So
Yeah, absolutely it does. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm babbling around because I'm
No,
very,
listen, you're a
very
fan, brother.
excited about this,
You're
because
there you go, fandom, brother.
yeah,
It's the best part of being what we do.
yeah, I love those IP, man, and this spin-off, well, that's what it spells like to me. This spin-off studio for these IPs just sounds so intriguing to me. Hopefully they're not like mobile games, like Warcraft Rumble and and Schnick like that. And they actually give us something AA and solid for console. But yeah, I can't wait, man.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of potential here. Now, Fuzzy, I saved you specifically for second because you're a technical guy like Keasante. And what's interesting about the supposed next piece of hardware. Now, again, we've heard different things. We know that the hardware is supposed to release in 2026. This newly formed studio, which, by the way, let me read verbatim from the article. And of course, thanks to Jez Corden for putting this article out. It was published on August 2nd, of course, by Jez Corden of Windows Central and the Xbox 2 podcast. And the title of the article is Microsoft and Activision have formed a new team within Blizzard to work on smaller game based on existing IP. Employees from King and other parts of Activision have formed a new team within the Blizzard umbrella. Now, again, one of my favorite sections is the what you need to know about the story. And, well, I'm going to read that verbatim before we get into the rest of the conversation. It says, over the past few weeks, many King employees have switched their LinkedIn profiles from King to Blizzard. We can reveal that Microsoft and Activision have, in fact, formed a new, smaller team within Blizzard comprised of King and various other employees to work on smaller titles based on existing Blizzard franchises like Overwatch, Warcraft, StarCraft, and beyond. Microsoft is keen to leverage its huge back catalog of franchises it acquired with its Activision Blizzard purchase of previous years. Now, Fuzzy, what's interesting, and trying to just focus on this supposed handheld. We keep hearing that the next piece of hardware is somehow going to incorporate your Steam library, your Epic Game Store library, as well as Xbox and Xbox Game Pass. What this is ultimately going to do is give the player choice of where they buy their games, where they download their games, and what they ultimately play. Now, I don't know if a Xbox only handheld does banger numbers in Japan, in Korea, in China. I honestly I don't think it would, because it's an Xbox. But I think there's something to be said that if the audience there is educated with the fact that these are basic PCs in your hand, very keen to like the ROG allies and everything else that's available out there in the handheld market, where not only are you getting the ability to play your Steam library, play your Epic Game Store library, but get a game like StarCraft in your service. I think that this could be not only big in those regions, a handheld, and again, we don't know, is it one piece of hardware for next gen, or is it two? We don't know in 2026. Is it going to be the traditional underneath your box PC that looks like an Xbox and then a handheld? Or is it going to be a handheld that runs as good as a ROG Ally in your hand, but when you dock it, that dock actually has hardware, making it a next-gen console? We don't know. Either way, I think that there is something to be said about a agile, smaller team going back and bringing IP like StarCraft. And that, again, Phil Spencer has, when he's been interviewed, he's talked about that specific franchise 2 or 3 times. That game is coming back. That game is a money maker. What are your thoughts?
Well, touching on the hardware just real quick, I think the big thing is I'm kind of in the camp of it's going to be a Snapdragon chip or an ARM chip, basically. So that way you get the best of both worlds with battery life and, playability and stuff. So if that all winds up being the case, I think their goal would be to have it where this can emulate on the actual hardware, the console games. Like, basically keep your Xbox library on this sort of PC handheld or portable PC, somewhat like a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally type of deal, but yet still have access to full-on PC games through either the Epic Store, Microsoft Store, or even Steam. And I think the reason why they do that is it kind of blurs that line, so that way you have the dual entitlement that Xbox, being the only ones that offer that, you have that playability to play your console games and PC games on the same device. And I think if they can manage that, it kind of circumvents that third-party licensing issue that's preventing that currently, where you would have certain third parties have it where if you bought the console version, you also own the PC version within the Xbox ecosystem. But if they make it so it's a PC device that can emulate, being that it's an Xbox, and emulate the Xbox games on that device, installed as opposed to streaming, I think that will give the customer the best of both worlds. Third parties, if they come to the table as far as negotiation, they might get a bigger piece of the pie, and then in turn, more people will be likely to buy, more games within the ecosystem, in turn giving them a larger sum from Xbox in general. Or even if the people don't purchase, like let's say it's a PC version of the game, they choose not to purchase it through Xbox because they have a CD key Steam sale type of thing going on or something, then the third party still gets the money. Xbox still keeps the person in the ecosystem, and we all win kind of deal. But back onto the Blizzard small team setup, like the first thing that came to mind was obviously with StarCraft and StarCraft Ghosts, like something like that, where you're not making the full on game, because I don't think they have the extra people to be able to move to that as far as for the RTS, the primary game that's still popular even in Korea and China today. I think what you wind up having is something that's like a go-between, that one keeps StarCraft in the news for outside of those regions, because it may not be as, well known or as popular at the moment in the US or in the UK or places like that. But you make something like StarCraft Ghost, maybe it's a third person, small, like 20 to 40 hour game, single player game type of thing, or maybe it has a co-op element to it. And I think that will warm people up for when you do ramp up an actual StarCraft team. Now, somebody in the chat for Pixelated Echoes with me and 3-Bit last night had made mention, I think it was Brett Brigham, who might be in the chat tonight.
Yeah, he's
was
there.
like, I think he made mention of well, why not just do like the Overwatch, single player DLC or single player storylines? Like they could actually do that for the individual characters. Yeah, they were supposed to have that in Overwatch 2. That was the whole reason why. So supposedly they had to make it a 2, but they've kind of lacked on that or fallen behind on that. But if you're creating a team that's just going to focus on that, you still have your Overwatch 2 team that's, making the content and keeping the battle passes and all that stuff going for Overwatch itself. But if you can make the smaller team focus on like a 20 to 40 hour experience as far as the individual character stories, you have unlimited potential that you can have. Hopefully they could spin it up every, year or two, another character or another 3 characters, do them in like a 3 sets or something like that. Where you still have revenue coming in for Overwatch 2, and you have the revenue for those, either through Game Pass or actually purchasing the game for that particular storyline of their favorite character in the Overwatch universe. So either way you look at it, I think it's a great idea. I hope at some point they look at some of the other older IP outside of Blizzard. I don't know if they would touch, like, let's say True Crime, since that's more of the Activision side of things. But I would really love to have, like, even if it's a small team just doing a 20 to 40 hour game. It doesn't have to be quite like a GTA clone or anything like that, but make it so it's, a decent. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I just wanted to ask you because Riot did this publishing thing, right? They opened publishing arms for spin-offs of their IP, and those those are excellent games, but they haven't sold enough to keep that arm intact. I think they recently just destroyed that initiative.
Yeah.
Do you think that them doing the same kind of thing, like you're talking about, which is expert, like in my ideas, big, like, I mean, it's a good idea, but it's obviously failed for just as big companies, right? Riot is gigantic. Do you think that it could work sheerly just because of Game Pass? Do you think that's like the whole, like, do you think like Game Pass is going to be the deciding factor if that actually works for this company?
I do think it comes into
Drag
play.
people in.
Yeah, big time, because it's one of those things where you have additional content. It keeps people subscribed because they're going to want to check out, like, as soon as their favorite character comes out, they're going to want to check out that content. So it may not do as well numbers wise as far as individual units unless you expand it outside of Game Pass. Obviously, it might still, you may still get the sales that you're looking for, but having it where it's like something built into Game Pass. If somebody was coming over to Game Pass for like maybe some of the perks for Overwatch 2 and things like that they do on occasion, that's a way to definitely lock them in. Playing it on your platform, within your ecosystem, looking forward to update stories and things like that, or possibly making it where it also allows for additional perks for that particular character. Hey, you completed the quest on this character's story line, you get an additional skin from that storyline. So things like that, I think, as long as they incentivize the player to try some of those spin-offs, and maybe they get, weapon skins or costumes or skins for their character in general, I think that's a good way to lock them in, and it would make it worth their while because you're basically captivating that audience. Even if they're not spending the additional dollars, they're going to eventually spend the additional dollars on the future season passes and things, because they're going to be tied to the Xbox ecosystem at that point. You could still offer it outside of it, but I think working within the Xbox ecosystem, that's where they can, I hate to use the word exploit it, but that's basically what they can do with those that are subscribed and make it so it's definitely worth. Even if somebody's on the fence of playing Overwatch, like I know the whole Transformers thing, I'm looking forward to giving that a try as well. But that's the type of stuff that if somebody wasn't into that game, they dip their toes in. Now they kind of like it, like kind of like the way Diablo was for me. I was like, I've never really bothered with it prior. Even before it was in Game Pass, it was just the matter of, oh, it's improved over what I've heard over Diablo 3 and things like that. Some of the stuff was going back to their traditional ways of doing it. All right, I'm on the fence. Let me pick it up. Some of my friends are picking it up. Oh yeah, this game, I'm all in on it now. So things like the expansion and stuff like that, it's not like I even have to think about it. It's like, all right, that's pre-ordered, already getting some of the rewards from that and stuff. So I think it's Game Pass definitely helps something like that. Like even with Riot now, I think with the with Valorant coming to console and the unlocks that they had before, that was mainly towards PC. But
all
if you're
the
an
characters
Ultimate
are
owner,
unlocked, which is huge, dude. That's massive.
that was huge. So they could kind of work some of those things out with some of the Blizzard IP itself. I'm really curious to see if this trend does work out within the Blizzard walls. Go ahead and do it in Activision. Go ahead and do it at Bethesda. Go ahead and do it even within Xbox Studios. So that way we may get a spinoff of Fallout a little bit sooner, possibly, or maybe we get that true crime spinoff a little bit sooner, or even what's the Prototype or something like that even.
Oh man,
so
yeah,
I like this idea.
I think a remake at this point.
Yeah. I like the idea of them having smaller teams that are possibly working with some of the bigger teams or taking spinoffs and experimenting, because that's another thing that Game Pass kind of helps with. They can experiment and not have to like close up shop because the spinoff that they tried, like let's say if Halo, they had a horror version of Halo Against the Flood on like an abandoned ring or something like that. If it doesn't hit, okay, we lesson learned. Maybe we stick to the formula a little bit more. But if it does, or if it attracts a new player base to Halo because of that, I think it's a win-win, and it's worthwhile, experimenting with those things in Game Pass.
Well, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I think this is a trend that's going to be we're going to see this repeated. I don't have that on good authority. This is just an assumption. This is, of course, right now with Blizzard. They have a small team. They took some people from King, they took some other people from Blizzard. They merged them together. There's a small team that's going to be agile, that's going to be making smaller projects that they can get out quicker, which is great. Are they going to spend the ducats, if you will, on a new StarCraft? They absolutely are. That game, whenever it releases, and I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if it's a remake, a rebranding, a remaster, or it's a new one. I hope it's a new one. I hope it's a new one, not for me, because that's not my type of game. I hope it's a new one for people like Amsley, who is like, whoa, a new StarCraft is exactly what this world needs, because it's going to make bank. It's going to be one of those games that it's going to release and it's going to do generational numbers, not just because it's in Game Pass or it's not. It's because it's StarCraft. It's a game that people have been clamoring for years to return in a big way, and now they can. Now it's no longer just the Call of Duty machine, right? Which is what Bobby King made it out to be.
Yeah, like for context, like StarCraft in North America, I think was almost a third of the size that it was in Korea, and
there you go.
Those people aren't like they. Anyways, it's a crazy amount of people. Like they made it an esport for a reason. Like it was a very heavy esport in that area forever. Just like Riot Games, just like when we think of League of Legends, we're like, why did they partner with Riot? It's like League of Legends still has like 5 million people playing a day.
Yes,
like a day. So yeah, that's why.
No,
that's why.
It's a great point all around, and this was a great topic. And again, I think this is going to be a running trend. What we've heard outside of the confirmed studio, that Phil Spencer himself actually wants to make teams work closer together, be more agile. So I can see a couple of these collaborations happening. I mean, look, they're happening in the form of State of Decay 3. State of Decay 3 by Undead Labs looked amazing on its first showing, right? We saw it. That was actual gameplay that has been confirmed. What also has been confirmed is not only did the coalition come in to help them with Unreal Engine 5, Obsidian Entertainment came in to help them with the world building that you're going to be able to do with the grounded technology. That is freaking awesome, right? So you're seeing the collaborations. It'd be really damn interesting. And again, I don't know if I'm ever going to get it before I'm done on this earth. I hope so. But again, you're going to, the virtual tomatoes, just hold them off. Just hold them off. I'm a platform guy. All I'm asking for is a new Banjo, and not even a new one. Give me a Resident Evil 2 type of remake of the original. You don't need to spend a lot of money to do that. You do not need to make a team of 600 to make that game. These small collaborations, these smaller agile teams, 20, 30 people, could pull that off. And if we're starting to see it already with what's happening in Blizzard, I have a strong suspicion this is going to be something internally that's going to be happening moving forward. I'm very excited for it, not just for Banjo-Kazooie, but there's a lot of games and a lot of IPs that they have that I'd love to see come back in a big way. But listen, let's get into the last topic of the show, ladies and gentlemen. But before we do that, let me welcome in and thank Brett Bingham, who just happened to be mentioned moments ago. He drops a very generous $5 super chat, and he goes on to say, the market is currently showing us why console sales are down. Listen, that's a world problem, brother, and you're not wrong. The market right now is just not good. Look what happened in Japan with their stocks. Like there's some real world shit going on, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real scary world right now, and I think console sales are the least important thing for people, especially if you have families. And console sales, even on the mythical, market leader, the PS5, it's going to be down too. But we'll know those numbers by weeks, and I would imagine. And not to be outdone, Gamer by Choice drops an additional very generous $2 super chat, and he says PlayStation is also counts non-consoles as console sales. Yeah, we did hear that. I don't know how many of the portals sold. If they sold, I don't think it sold that well. And if it did, I don't think it really even put a dent into it, even if they added it. I mean, how many of those sold? 1 million, 2 million? Does anyone actually know? Because I know that Sony's not talking about it the same way they're not talking about the PlayStation VR 2.0. It's they're not talking about it for a reason, folks, because Sony, those are ballsy MFs, and if they were winning, they would stick it up your nose and be like, I don't care what it smells like, you're taking it. That's how Sony is, right?
It's so crazy that they see how companies need to inflate their numbers somehow, right? They're just jumbling up everything into one pile because it's true that the console market is just not growing. Like everybody's been saying for many years, it's not growing. It's kind of staying at a steady pace. And even look at it now when Xbox is at its lowest, PlayStation still doesn't seem to have grabbed anybody. They're just selling the same. So that should tell you something. Anyway.
Yeah. Listen, it is what it is. That is the market, folks. I don't think it's getting any better, which is why you see Microsoft, the behemoth, pivoting. And they're doing it fast, they're doing it furious, and they're doing it first. Sony has always been behind the 8 ball, and it looks like they're behind the 8 ball once again. Are they going out of business? No, they're not. They are the market leader. They still remain the market leader, but there is a reason why they don't have a roadmap, which we're going to get into right now, which, of course, coming from Phil Spencer, folks, get ready, 24, 25, big time to be an Xbox fan. And lastly, but just came in, Michelle Alexandria. Well, welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here. She drops a very generous $3 super sticker. Thank you so much for the generosity. We super appreciate that. And of course, we appreciate you being here in the chat as you always are. Buzzy, let's get into this is the topic of the show. I say that because we had, again, for a lot of people, we're very disappointed with the fact that Avowed has been confirmed not only to be delayed, but its official release date is February 18th, 2025. Now, for me, Sure. Was it one of the games that I was most looking forward to? Yes. Do I absolutely love Obsidian told stories? 1,000%. Is it in Pillars of Eternity, something that I have no affiliation with? I cannot wait to learn about the world. Yes. So am I disappointed? Yeah, I get it. It's just another game that I'm not going to get a chance to play this year. But you know what? Ultimately, there are so many games, and I'm not just talking about Xbox games. You have listen, don't boo me. Astrobot, one of my most anticipated PlayStation 5 games. I love platformers. And like a big old nerd, I'm buying a freaking controller as well, right? Nintendo has a ton of stuff coming out this year. And let's talk about the third party. I mean, there are you have the new Assassin's Creed, which I don't have to pay for because I have Ubisoft Plus. You have the new Star Wars game, I don't have to pay for. I got Ubisoft Plus. There are so many games that are coming out, both indie and AA and AAA and quadruple A, that we don't literally have the time. So this one game being moved out into 2025, no big deal. So we have this happened August 2nd. We have a tweet from the official Xbox Twitter account. It says, so many games coming. As such, we are moving Avowed to February 18, 2025 to give players backlog some breathing room. Stay tuned for more information across, and again, I think a lot of this information is going to come the way of Gamescom, which is on the 23rd of this month. But Phil Spencer actually tweeted something that I thought was pretty interesting. He goes on to say this: we're proud of what the Obsidian team has accomplished with Avowed the game, and we want to make sure that they have the best launch possible. We look forward to you enjoying it along the rest of our lineup of games and updates coming this year and beyond. And the beyond that he's talking about, Fuzzy, and this is where I think we get an absolute rock solid, laser focused how they're going to finish off 2024 and how 2025 is going to be for games. Now, again, this is just my theory. This is my thought. You have a different opinion, by all means, you're entitled to it. But I think what was put out there by the official Xbox account dictates exactly how these games are going to be released, and more importantly, the order in which they are released. So bear with me as I read, Fuzzy. It says this: World of Warcraft, The War Within, scheduled for August 26th, 2024. Age of Mythology Retold, confirmed for September 4th, 2024. Aura, History Untold, September 24th in the same month. Those two games for RTS fans are going to be a dream come true. Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred DLC, October 8th. And of course, later that month, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 confirmed for October 25th. In November, you have Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and this is where we start to get into the TBA. And that is the last three big games. One is a DLC, one's a smaller side-scrolling beat-em-up RPG with a lot of legs, and one is my most anticipated games is Indiana Jones: The Great Circle. That is right after Flight Simulator. And again, it says TBA to be announced. Followed by that is Shattered Space. And after that, of course, is Towerborn. Now, what's interesting here, folks, is we've been hearing, Fuzzy, that Indiana Jones slated for December. Mm-hmm. I don't think so anymore. And here's why. If November 19th gets you Flight Simulator, right? We did hear that Shattered Space is supposed to be in September. That is the rumor around the 1-year anniversary of Starfield. That's also listed on the back end. Towerborn, again, we're getting a full reveal at Gamescom on the 23rd. I believe we get a release date for that. I think Indiana Jones is potentially, and again, this is just my opinion based on this, I think it's targeting November, the end of November. I think they're going to try and get this out before December, because listen, December doesn't really hit for a lot of games. If they released it, it'd have a lot of legs and a lot of room to be by itself. but I still think Indiana Jones is a big enough title that that's November. Now, I want to get to the bottom tier here, okay? Because there's 4 games that are listed, and it's only 4. I think that this is the cadence, ladies and gentlemen, of the quarter, 1 game per quarter that we've been hearing about, specifically from Matt Booty, that he wants this cadence of AAA goodness to hit Xbox and Xbox Game Pass. So, Avowed confirmed for February 18th, 2025. After that, you have South of Midnight. I think that is second quarter. I think, and of course, the third game, Doom, The Dark Ages, multiplat. I think that is Q3. And Q4, which would be holiday 2025, you get Fable. Mind you, there's no Call of Duty next there, and there's no other games that we have heard that might be releasing, like, I don't know, the Clockwork Revolution might be out in 2025. They're going to have to sneak that in there as well. What are your thoughts of the roadmap? Do you think there's any breadcrumbs here to this being the 1 per quarter in 2025 and what we have left for 2024?
I think so. Like, for the most part, looking at the list of games that they have shown, we know that there's some other ones that are slotting in there as well. Like, we recently had Stalker 2 get bumped to November, even though it's not first party, but it is one that they're really pushing within Game Pass as well. So I think they're trying to be more strategic with some of their partnered games that they have and giving them time to breathe or giving them room. So that way you don't necessarily have kind of like what we had this past week, where 3 partnered games that went into Game Pass are almost right on top of each other. Not that that's a bad thing in any way, shape, or form, but I do think it creates a little bit of a backlog to some extent when, like for me, I started with Flintlock. I'm going to go ahead and finish that one off when I can. Also started Dungeons of Hindenburg, already wrapped up. Still Wakes the Deep. Want to get into what do you call them? Path of the Goddess. I've yet to actually touch it yet, but that's one that I would say I'm probably the most interested in, but I've yet to get to play it. But I eventually want to get to a point where I don't let some of these games stack up, because once you start stacking up a backlog, it's like good luck trying to get around to knocking some of those down from that. But moving Avowed, I think the big thing is we've seen improvement every time they've shown it, or at least I've noticed improvement, whether it's, the third person perspective that they kind of snuck in there or added, the hand-to-hand combat or the melee combat as far as in Avowed from first person looks improved versus like the earlier, displays of it. The hand magic and things like that look like they've improved as well. Some of the lighting and character design stuff looks like it has improved. So every time we see it, it shows that it's getting more and more polish. And if that means it doesn't come out until February, I'm perfectly fine with it, especially considering, and not to harp over like the gap that we had earlier in this year, but there was still stuff that came into Game Pass, but there were some that just solely focused on, first party. Well, after how 2023 ended, we should have had something before Hellblade 2 to kind of fit into that gap or something to that effect. But I think this movement here, negates that altogether for hopefully for next year. And I think they'll have enough of a stack that some of those games that we see, all 4 of those that are like not all 4, but like the other 3 that are TBA for 25 might actually be before June, because there are things like Clockwork Revolution out there. There are things like Contraband out there. There are things like Replaced that are out there. So they're going to have to squeeze those in key places, so that way you don't have too much overlap to the point where a game might get ignored. Nobody wants to see Xbox do like EA is famous for when they did Battlefield and Titanfall 2 at almost the same time. So having that spacing definitely helps. I mean, Game Pass, you don't necessarily need that spacing, but I think they want to give each one of their games, I wouldn't say a fighting chance, but enough exposure, get people into it, have them either fall in love with it or try it. Maybe it's not for them and move on to the next title. But in any event, if you have it where you have title after title after title, weeks apart type of thing, it might become a little bit of an overload. And I don't want to have people out there saying, "Oh, we're getting too many games in Game Pass." Just don't say any of that stuff, but let them kind of space things out on their own type of deal. But yeah, I think this roadmap. Well, one, we have a roadmap, so let's be clear. We have a roadmap for Xbox. That's not necessarily the case on other platforms, but we have a roadmap for Xbox, and they've been, this past year and a half, if not the past couple of years, they've been getting better on consistency as far as fulfilling that roadmap. So one delay, I don't think it hurts anything. If anything, I think it makes it for a stronger lineup for next year. And I can't wait to see what we get, at the showcase for next year, or even possibly, the VGAs as a surprise kind of thing. But looking forward to Indiana Jones. My fingers are crossed that maybe it gets bumped up so it can be early November. So maybe it gets considered for Game of the Year.
Possible.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Would like to see that. And then maybe, hopefully Avowed doesn't get forgotten for next year's potential Game of the Year nomination kind of thing. So I think, hopefully Matt Booty has his flow chart out there and gets everything figured out as far as timing. But I think they're on the right track as far as that's concerned.
I agree. Like I said, it's just one game. They had a hell of a year so far. Depending on where you thought Hellblade was or it wasn't. I'm not going to fight you if you didn't like it. That's fine. But Game Pass has delivered tenfold. And again, I understand that there's going to be some people out there. Well, Boom, it's only been like one or two first party. Listen, they have a lot releasing this year. We read verbatim the list. Now, maybe not every game is for you, but of course, not every game is for every gamer. There are going to be somebody in this chat right now is like, you know what? I'm in on every one of those games. I'm not. I have no interest in Aura. I have no interest in any of the RTS stuff. It's just not my bag. Now, if you want to give me a new Aliens versus Predator RTS like you had on the OG Xbox, now we're talking. But it's fine. But there are a couple of games there that I'm really looking forward to. Gamsley, let's get your hot take on this. Do you think that based on this, we got a bunch of dates, some things we didn't get dates on, but those four at the bottom, I think they're specifically put there to let gamers know that yes, these are the four games that are coming out. I think that I think they're going to be one per quarter. That's just my hot take. How do you read the graphic?
Oh yeah, the one per quarter thing is going to happen. I think they just have way too many studios to fail it anymore. I think they got it. I think they got a good cadence to roll out, not to mention third-party stuff and second-party stuff coming on to Game Pass and all that good stuff. It's a bunch of content. Avowed is kind of disappointing though. That I'm only saying it's disappointing because I really, me, I wanted to play that game so bad. I was talking up a storm about this game. I love this developer. I want to see that game come out and be good and do good, not because Xbox, but because I want to play it and it looks good. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in that. But when you look at the roadmap and you look at all the games coming out this year from, again, second party and third party and all that stuff, there's way too many games. Fuzzy just mentioned 4 games that I'm also like super invested in on Game Pass. I didn't complete any of them at the moment. Right now, I think I'm going towards, I think the most played game I have on Game Pass right now is Hinterberg. And I'm almost done that. There's just where Xbox is missing on the first party front, or if you want to even argue that, they're landing on their service, right? Things are just landing on their service that are really awesome. They're giving us that choice. So I don't think they have anything to worry about. Yeah, there's just so much coming out. I don't even know why we're even arguing the first party thing. Unless you're not a Game Pass subscriber. If you're not a Game Pass subscriber and you don't like Call of Duty and all that, then maybe I could see the frustration, right? If you look at it in that perspective, you look at it and you're like, well, I don't really care about these second and third party games. I was never going to try them anyway. I'm not subbed to Game Pass. what is it for me to be an Xbox Series S/X consumer? And all I have is Hellblade. And Avowed slips, and all I got is Diablo and expansions, and maybe I don't even play those games. Yeah, it's a little rough for me, right? Indiana Jones and Hellblade for me on my Series X and S this year is kind of lame. If that's all that's coming out. I don't want to attack Xbox. I'm not attacking Xbox. I'm just looking at a consumer level on the box right now, and I'm paying full price for things, and I bought it because of Xbox's first party interests, like, I don't know, Halo and all that stuff. I'm kind of a little bit let down at the moment. All right? And that's just me. I'm not talking about the other side. I don't give a crap about the other side. But if I'm looking at it as that, and I say I don't play Call of Duty, I'm just really interested in first party stuff. It's weird. But if Avowed landed, I think it would be a fantastic year. So that's my disappointment with the first party stuff.
It's a fair take. I mean, look, we're not picking sides here. I don't care where you play. If you play video games, you're enjoying it for one way or another. I support all three consoles. I'm happy to do it. There hasn't been much for PlayStation 5 for me. All the games that they had released that are exclusive either were not up my alley or didn't review good enough for me to waste the money. Will I buy Rise of the Ronin and Stellar Blade at the end of the year for $30 each? Oh, absolutely. Will I pay full boat? No, I am not paying $76.43 for those games. I'm just not. I have too much to play. There's just not enough time in a day for me to buy those games, keep them in the wrapper, and spend $150 on 2 games. I'm not doing it. So I'll get it at the end of the year the same way I bought a bunch of PS5 stuff last year. Nintendo, I get day and date. That's no problem. But I can do that because I get all my games in Xbox Game Pass, and that's awesome.
Well, you know what? Let's speak on that. Let's take a different angle, right? So, Nintendo, right? I'm a Nintendo guy. Oh, look at me, I'm a Nintendo guy. I bought a Switch this year. Well, actually, you know what? That doesn't even work because there's backlog. But let's just say I'm day one Switch user. I have my Switch going. I have all, I played it. I bought it for Zelda and Mario and the big bangers, right?
Right.
If you look at the last 3 years in Nintendo and you're looking at Princess Peach and Kirby, you're like, I don't what am I playing? I don't care about this. It's almost like the same comparison here. It's like I'm not buying Princess Peach and Kirby. I'm buying Zelda and 3D Marios and 2D Marios, right? And Mario Kart. That's why I'm buying a Switch. And in that level, in that sense, Switch in the past 2 years has flopped hard. 3 years even, you could even argue. So if you're looking at it in the same light for Xbox, if you're looking at the last thing I really loved as an Xbox first party guy, and you see just Starfield, and all you're getting is Indiana Jones next, and yes, you can argue, well, Gamsley, Black Ops and all this stuff. No, that's not what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about. All right. There's a difference. There's a difference in caliber and levels to your first party lineup. And right now, Hellblade 2 is nowhere near what a Starfield is. We can't compare those two. Starfield is a gigantic game, and that's what we're talking about. Xbox hasn't landed on that yet this year. They just they just didn't. And neither did PlayStation, and neither then did Nintendo. I'm just being level-headed here.
Right. Fair.
Yeah. Third party and second party have truly been lifting this year in many ways. And I don't know if you can argue on that with me, but yeah, they're about to hit Black Ops. Anyways, point is, Avowed would have been my saving grace for the year. I would be like, yes, I got Avowed. This is why I'm an Xbox guy or a Game Pass guy or whatever you want to call me. I'm super excited for Avowed. And now they're like, we're pushing it. And I'm like, fuck, sorry, my F.
Yeah, that's
I'm like, damn, like I really love that. That's why I it's a massive RPG that I'm really excited about. So seeing it slip is very saddening to me.
I mean, listen, and you have every right to be disappointed, but at the same time, I'm happy that the game isn't going to get lost with all the games that have coming out. And again, it's not just for Xbox Game Pass. There are a lot of games coming out this fall in third party, second party, indie. There's a lot of traffic. And something like Avowed, I like the fact that it's going to get some breathing room. February, I think, is perfect for that game to come out. It's going to have the whole playing field
Oh, yeah.
available for it. It's going to do really well on PC. It's going to do really well on Xbox Game Pass. And you know what? I want to see Obsidian really win with this one. And again, for me, I'm excited because I don't have an affiliation with Pillars. I don't know that universe, and this game is going to allow me to do that. I'm super stoked. But
Did you
listen,
like Outer Wilds or Worlds? What
no,
was it
Outer
called? God,
Worlds.
there we go.
Outer Worlds
yeah.
2 is coming out, but again, I'm
Did you
talking
like
about,
that game?
I loved Outer Worlds 1. Yeah,
Oh, I can't
thought it
wait.
was,
I can't wait for you to experience Avowed then, because it's gonna be awesome.
Because again, it's an Obsidian game, but again, Pillars I have no affiliation with, but this game is going to give me that, and that's why I'm excited because I'm going in blind. I don't know the Pillars universe, which has me even more excited to not only learn about it, but it's an Obsidian game, and I love the Outer Worlds. I love the storytelling. I love the character interaction. I love the gunplay. You're going to get gunplay, magic, character interaction, and a new world for me to explore. I'm super stoked. And, well, it's Obsidian. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here on today's Xbox Lunch Break Special. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, folks, I saw that the likes are like super, super low. I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't charge you a quarter every time you hit the like button. If you are still here, and as according to the numbers here, 463 live viewers across Twitter and, of course, YouTube, please, for the love of Joe, hit the like button. And, of course, if you're not already subscribed, subscribing would be great because Mrs. Boom and I are 66, not order 66. Don't kill us. 66 subs away from 15K. And it would be pretty dope to hit that this week. And we're working super hard. And we'd appreciate to get that number, to be able to have that as something that we've done collectively as a channel. It would be a really, really big deal. Let me just make sure I'm caught up on all super chats, and then we'll get everyone out of here. And yes, we are. So, Gamsley, let's sell your brand, brother. Obviously, you work with Deadly Headley and, of course, Asa each and every week on a podcast that doesn't really focus on news, but you focus on talking about gaming and having fun while you're doing it. Where could people subscribe to that YouTube channel and, more importantly, follow you on social media?
Awesome. So yeah, we took a break last week. Everybody was just busy. So we're back on this week, Thursday, for the Xbox Series podcast. Wow. Podcast at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Oh my God. On the Gaming Arcadia YouTube channel. That will be on Thursday. And for everything else that I'm going to be hopping on, just keep an eye out for Gamsley TKD on my Twitter page. I will be posting all that stuff. My God, I was bad at this outro. You could tell I'm a little bit hungover.
You're a little hungover,
and
you're a little rusty. There you go. So it's fine. It's fine.
No, but yeah. And obviously here every Monday at 12 for lunch and talking about Xbox and all that good stuff. And
well, we definitely appreciate you being back. Weird. And obviously, once again, congratulations to the new addition to the family. That's always amazing and awesome. And you are officially an uncle. That is great. And relish in the glory of being an uncle. It is a big deal. I know, because Tyler is coming to stay over this whole week, half of the week on the back end. And yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun as we always do. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's sell your brand, brother. Where can people check out your YouTube channel? And obviously, if you didn't know, it's the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre. And more importantly, what are the shows you on, and where can people follow you on social media?
Oh man, this was awesome hanging out with you guys. Glad we got Gamsley back tonight, and just glad we were able to interact with everybody in the chat. Thanks for everybody showing up. Giving your thoughts on a lot of the topics and just gaming in general. And that's what it's all about. But for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find me on FSP or Fun Speculation Podcast later tonight, 10 p.m. on Fun Speculation's channel on YouTube. Just do a search for Fun Speculation. Tomorrow, you can find me on Sergeant Sentinel Gaming's podcast. He's starting his own podcast tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just look for Sergeant Sentinel Gaming on Twitter and on YouTube, and you'll be able to find it. I'll be making posts on Twitter about it as well. You can also find me on my wife's podcast on Friday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. It's basically, if you're into horror, whether it's gaming, movies, TV series, whatnot, check it out. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just do a search on both Twitter as well as YouTube for Ferocious Fee, and that's Fee, F-I, as in Fiona. And also hope to see everybody that was in the chat today watching us right back here, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday for Breakfast with Boom, right on this same channel. Hope to see you guys there. Thanks again.
Well, thank you, brother. And folks, I don't know if anyone has asked, because the chat's going really quick. This is Shadow Warriors 3. What a game. So ultra violent, so amazingly graphically stout. It is a lot of fun. This game is worth your time. I picked it up during the Xbox sale. I missed it originally, and I was like, man, how did I miss this game? Because this is actually a homage to like any of the 90s shooters, and it's funny. It's a lot of fun, and in some aspects, you saw that I died. It's incredibly difficult, but that's going to do it for us here. A big thank you to all of the super chats and the channel member chats that have come in. Mrs. Boom and I are incredibly humbled and grateful for the continued support, as well as, of course, the channel memberships that continue to come in. And again, big thank you to everyone that tuned in. Before you get on out of here, hit the like button, or of course, if you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down button. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you one way or the other. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.